Hello and welcome back to my channel Scriptcase by Jamie. Yes, that is me. And today we are going to be talking about something very special. And as always, the main topic, Scriptcase. And it is, of course, called Scriptcase by Jamie. So, of course, the topic would be Scriptcase or Jamie, one of the two. And it's me presenting Scriptcase in some shape or form. So today we are going to be talking languages, application languages to be exact, as well as the data dictionary. And I have a very basic application here, form categories. And if I go ahead and run this, we can just quickly check that out. It's a very basic form, some nasty images used from one of the previous trainings. Okay, so what I want to do is come here to the data dictionary. And if I check or click that, I can first of all add here a dictionary name. And this is the name that I give to this dictionary, okay? So it's not assigned to the project, but to the dictionary. I'll just call it sample, for instance. You can give it any description. If you have multiple dictionaries, you may have a dictionary inside of the project for the forms. You can also add a dictionary for just the grids, or for a front end, a back end, or for various areas. So you may have a client area, you may have a user area, you may have an accounting area, an admin area, or those various departments that you have within the company. You can give each of those here its own dictionary. And that's pretty cool, no? Okay, so we can add any description, and of course with so many departments you may want to add a description here so you don't lose your mind as to where the dictionary belongs to and the naming conventions. Of course, add a description in there, make your life a little easier. Okay, so then we also have our use schema before the table. So we have the option yes or no. So you may want to know first of all what a schema is. Okay, and there you go. You should now know or have an idea as to what a schema is. And if you don't, then Google is our best friend. Okay, then we also have here the connection. So we can choose the associated connection for this application. And with this project, I am using SQLite PDO, and it's giving me here the scon_gs. Okay, so that's the connection name. And the connections, of course, we have them up here in database, edit connection, new connection. So if you go to edit connection, you will have a list of your connections available, and your connection that you have here will be available there. Below that here, we have associate dictionary with the connection. So I can choose to associate my database connection with this dictionary that I am creating. Now, the majority of times you will want to choose yes. In some cases, you may want to choose no. For instance, if you have some of or many of those departments, for instance, in those cases, maybe you have also multiple connections and you will want to associate it with a different connection, or not have it associated at all and just be able to use it randomly. That is entirely up to you. You can also create dictionaries that you do not have to use with the database. Okay, so in this case, I would just choose yes. I will go ahead and say yes, create the connection, and then Scriptcase is going to give me here the edit data dictionary sample, which is the sample that I gave, the name that I gave to this. Okay, so remember that is my database dictionary that I have just created. If I had added a description, it would be displayed here. And then here we also have the settings that we had just configured. So use the schema before the table, our connection, and if our dictionary is associated with our connection. Of course, we can go ahead and edit those details just by clicking here the edit button, or close it. For now, we'll leave it open because we want to make adjustments down the bottom here. Now, first of all, on the left here, we have the option to add our tables to the dictionary. So I could now choose the tables that I want to add into this dictionary that I have just created. So again, you can create as many dictionaries as you want and then associate those individual tables, for instance, to that dictionary, and maybe create a different dictionary for the other tables. In this case, I would just go ahead and choose all of them. Why not? Or I can remove them all and just choose the 1 or 2. In fact, which form do we have here? The categories. Okay, so I would choose then only the categories table. And here on the right, I have then also the label that I want to apply to this. Now, of course, I think in some cases it makes sense to have it given the table name, which as you see would be automatic. But in some cases, you may want to change that label name. So of course, go ahead and do so. And then when you are ready, notice now with the selections, I have here the option to add those tables to the database, to the data dictionary, should I say. So I would just click next. And then I am presented the options to generate indexes in language files with table field labels. So this is then going to grab my database tables and then check all the indexes within the applications, and in the language file, it will then also add those tables with those relevant labels. Okay, so it's going to try and be smart now and generate some indexes for us within the language files and also provide the labels for us. We also have the option to overwrite the language files that have been indexed. Okay, so if you already have language files, you may not want to have this checked. In this case, I will say yes, I want to overwrite them and add them. Okay, so if I have any duplicates in there, they will be overwritten. That is important. And then from there, I can go ahead and go add. And as we just very quickly there saw, it's just one table, so it processed really fast. And of course, if I have more tables, it would take a little longer. Now here within the data dictionary, now that I have added my table to the data dictionary, I have quite a few capabilities in here. So it's not just languages, because the data dictionary is also a dictionary for the data, not just for the language. It adds the language keys or the table data to the application languages. Okay, so it synchronizes with here the application languages and places our tables into that extra application, let's say. Okay, so here I have the option to organize via dictionary tables or database tables. And of course I can choose then the categories table, and notice when I click, it enables the two options on the left here. So the first option I have here is to synchronize the dictionary with my database tables. Okay, so if I add new tables, right now it's green, it's updated. I do not need to synchronize it again. I just did it. But if I add more tables later, I may want to add them. For instance, we had left some of those tables out and not checked them and added them now to our data dictionary. We could now synchronize the dictionary once again, and it would then give us the option to add those other tables. For now, we don't care about that. Below that, we have the option to synchronize the categories table we have here with our applications. And that will synchronize the fields from this table with here my application. So if I come back here quickly to home and open up here my form categories, and if I check here the edit fields, I can see I have basic field names, category ID, category name, description, and picture. So I will go ahead and close that, because otherwise, if I go ahead and synchronize the tables, it sometimes causes a bit of confusion there. You are better off closing all other applications and then synchronizing with this option here. You can perform the synchronization with the dictionary and database without any issues, but the applications, ideally close them, and that way all of your data will be transferred correctly. Okay, so you may have noticed the little edit over here to the right, and this is actually quite important, because if I click on that, it's going to give me then all of the fields from that table. For instance, I have here the category ID, and yes, they are all checked here because they will all be added and updated. If I uncheck one of these, then when I synchronize the applications and so forth, those details will not synchronize. So I could go ahead and remove the category ID. It doesn't need to be synchronized. It's always the category ID. We don't need to add a language variable for this or a language key to the application. We care not. In that case, we could go ahead and uncheck that. And then whenever we synchronize, that field will not be synchronized with it. In this case, I will leave it checked. So then we have the data types here that we can specify for each of these fields. For instance, the category ID, number, pretty obvious. Category name, text field, also possibly obvious. Description, text with multiple lines. Okay, so here you may want to change that from a text with multiple lines to just a text, for instance. Or of course, we have many other options here. We can change those fields to a rating field, a URL, an email field, the smiles and thumbs now even, which is awesome, okay, because they were not previously there. They are new features there. And Scriptcase is always adding new features and capabilities to Scriptcase. It's just crazy. And I have a funny feeling we will be looking at some new fields soon, which is also awesome. Okay, so we have a few fields here to choose from, and we could specify that here, and that is then stored for every synchronization we then perform. For our picture, for instance, we have here image database. We do not have here the image file name as an option. We have the document file, not the image file. Yeah, so in those cases, you may want to specify image database and then make that adjustment in the application. Okay, so we can adjust the length of those fields, the decimal positions, if those fields are required, the minimum size, the maximum size, and transfer all of that over to our forms each time we synchronize with the data dictionary. We also have more options there to the right with the pen. And here I can specify required again. I can also add a mask, the minimum, maximum size, the min value, max value, the help information, and even include the foreign key. And if in those cases, for instance here, categories would be related to something else, I could then specify here the key field and also the field which should be shown during those selections. Okay, so within our forms as well as the grid applications, we can already pre-configure all future generated or synchronized applications that are related to that database table or to this database table. Okay, so that's pretty much it there. There are, of course, all the same options for each of these, and you can go ahead and modify those. Now, with all of those done, let's go ahead. I'll just go ahead and click Update. And then from here, we can go ahead again and choose here the categories to synchronize. And then we want to choose here the synchronize applications. And clicking that, I can then choose which of these properties. We just set the default properties for the categories. And first of all, have here the form. If I had a grid, it would also be displayed here. And then again, for each of the other tables and each of the other related applications, they will all be listed here on the left-hand side. And of course, again, I can uncheck them or check them and synchronize specifically various properties that I want to have applied. For instance, typically because we are applying languages, we would, of course, apply the label to all of these applications. In this case, just the form categories. Okay, so if I wanted to transfer all of the other information, such as the data type, I wanted to have that synchronized all the time, it should be like that, and that is it. Same as the decimal position, minimum and maximum sizes, and so on. We can check those here, and they would then also always be transferred and synchronized when you choose to synchronize those applications. And of course, we can deselect it and choose not to synchronize that. So in this case, I will just go ahead and continue. I'm just synchronizing now the label with my form categories here. And that will then go ahead and add the new language keys to that application. And as it says here, the table categories has now been synchronized with the form categories, and the category ID, category name, description, picture are all okay. And the processing has completed. Of course, I can display the log and have more information there, and then I can see the label that has been applied within my application languages. So if I come here now to application languages, I now have here my table categories, and here now I have those language keys I can then use throughout my applications. And then, of course, the various languages, okay, that I can then translate, and that will then transfer into my applications automatically. And within the languages, let's not forget, we can always add extra values. For instance, here I have the table categories. I may want to add an extra folder. And again, I will call it samples, add that folder. And then here for samples, I can go ahead and include new values here. And the new values always start with a lang underscore. And here I could go sample and then provide the specific language variations here and add those messages. And then just like that, I can then continue adding the foreign languages or further indexes that I can then use throughout my application. Now, if I wanted to use now this sample lang, what I need to do is take this and then use the curly brackets. So for instance, if I come now to my home and then open here the form categories, we can see there just a moment that it has already been updated. And if I come here to edit fields, we now see here all of the new language variables. And as we see, it also has curly brackets around it. Okay, so it's surrounded by those curly brackets and the lang underscore. And then we, in this case, the table name, and then underscore field, and then underscore category ID. Okay, so then with these language variables also added in other applications, if we go to use a label which has already been used, the language variables are also presented and we can also use them again throughout our applications. Okay, so that is pretty much it for today. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and of course, that you have also learned more about language variables, the data dictionary, as well as application languages, all within Scriptcase. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like the video, leave us a comment, say something, hello, whatever it is. I am listening and also replying. And of course, be sure to check out the other channels, subscribe to those also. I am posting tips on those daily. Okay, so thanks again for watching, and until the next video.